OpenAI and AMD announcing a 5-year AI data center deal, challenging Nvidia's market dominance. Shares of AMD up more than 25% this morning, so this is a massive move, obviously coming as a bit of a surprise to the markets. If you check out some of the other names in the sector, Nvidia shares down by about 1%. Micron shares, though, up by more than 4%. Taiwan Semi up by better than 2%. And joining us right now is Chris Caso. He is Wolfe Research Senior Analyst. Chris, we were going to talk to you about winners and losers in this sector, but hey, let's just focus on the news. What do you think of what you've heard?
It's obviously a big announcement, and putting it into perspective, you had previously the announcement with Nvidia for about 10 gigawatts of capacity. You've now got AMD with 6 gigawatts of capacity. Clearly, in our view, OpenAI is trying to just get access to the capacity, and the capacity itself is a competitive advantage. So they're moving really fast. They're securing deals. They had a deal with Broadcom again that they announced on the earnings call. Mm-hmm. So OpenAI is making some moves here.
Two schools of thought on this. One is, wow, this just shows the total addressable market is going to be way bigger than anybody anticipated. OpenAI is pulling a page out of Amazon's playbook and then one-upping them on that by basically saying we're going to grow and grow and grow and not worry about profitability. Right. The other school of thought is, hang on a second, they're promising to spend a whole lot more than they have or that they can possibly have. Which school do you go down?
Well, and it's interesting in the way that they're going about this. And what was notable in the announcement this morning with AMD is issuing warrants to OpenAI. Presumably, and there's a call at 8 o'clock where AMD is going to talk about this, but presumably there's some give back. They didn't give the warrants away for free. So, one way you can look at it is the warrants are helping to finance this. In the case of Nvidia, week before last, Nvidia made a $100 billion investment into OpenAI.
Right, in cash.
In cash. So
this is, you think, the same sort of deal, but AMD doesn't necessarily have the cash to do this?
Perhaps. And again, I'm sure we're going to find out about that at 8 o'clock when they have the call. But it's some ways of OpenAI being innovative in the way the financing is. Now, again, if you want to be skeptical about it, you remember back to the tech bubble. And one of the things there that was one of the warning signs was vendor financing, where companies like Cisco didn't necessarily take the cash from their customers and such. This is different, and it's different than what happened then. But when you see the money going in a circle, it raises some flags. What
do you think of Nvidia shares at this point? What do you think of AMD? And with a reminder that AMD has just soared 25% from where it closed on Friday.
Yeah, and Nvidia is the one that we've liked the best because the valuation has been about the same. In Nvidia's case, you don't really worry about market share with Nvidia. They're the ones that are going to be there as long as this grows. With AMD, there's some question about, what their position is. This year they're probably going to do, somewhere $6-7 billion worth of AI chips, which is, much less than Nvidia. But what they said in the announcement this morning is AMD is going to have, tens of billions of revenue in that. Considering where they are now, it's a big deal for AMD too.
One of the things I first thought was, okay, wait a second, is Nvidia putting this cash up front and therefore financing its competitor potentially? But this sounds like it's not that. This sounds like AMD would be financing its own purchases through these shares.
And we've got to find out what the details are. But again, my view, just from what we known so far, is that AMD is not giving away these warrants for nothing, right? There's got to be.
I thought it was a penny or something.
Well, I don't really understand why. I mean, do you understand the warrant situation? Why are you doing that?
I don't. We've got only the press release that came out a couple minutes ago.
Right. No. But in the Nvidia instance, right, they're actually effectively paying OpenAI to go buy their chips. And that's sort of what's happening.
And it's right. So the amount of revenue
AMD instance, it's the opposite.
Right. So I think what you could say is probably that in the case of AMD, you knew that announcing a deal with OpenAI is going to make those warrants much more valuable, right?
Right.
So that's better currency for OpenAI after the deal is done.
So you think that they take the money from the warrants, use that money effectively to turn around and buy the chips?
Possibly. We have to find out what the details are.
So is it the opposite, or is it the same thing? They're just using warrants instead of cash, like?
Well, I guess the point, and again, from what I know now, is they're giving the warrants to OpenAI, and those warrants have some value to it. So perhaps, for example, it's in exchange for a lower price in the chips. Perhaps is one potential scenario.
What do you think of where chip prices are overall? The rest of the industry too.
Well, for the industry outside of AI, nothing's really happening, right? And this has been this strange break between the sectors in AI because there's so much money being invested. That's where the action is right now. We're waiting for the cyclical recovery elsewhere. I will say that AI is having some tangential effects. For example, you see Micron stock has been on a tear over the last month. Part of that is because of AI, but the other part of that is you're actually starting to see some of the traditional server market come back, which is sort of a tangential on AI. In general, I think right now where the numbers are going up the most, where the most excitement is right now, is still AI. We're waiting for the other parts of the sector to come back.
Do you buy AMD shares here? Do you buy Nvidia shares here? Maybe AMD, you need to hear a little bit more about this deal, but what about
Nvidia? For Nvidia, we're very comfortable, and again, the valuation's reasonable. They're right in the middle of this. I find it hard to find a scenario where AI works and Nvidia doesn't work.